Thank you for joining us.
No worries.
How would you rate the careers service?
I think the career service has a lot of potential. That's why I put it in my manifesto as one of my main points.
Yeah, we picked up on that.
Yes, I think it's an area that needs improvement. We're not offering the service on par with other small institutions.
No, of course it has in the past been accused of creating pretty much nothing but spam. So I think there are a large number of unnecessary, often emails. That's a fair accusation.
That's a fair accusation. I think they're not targeted at Hethrop students for philosophy and theology or study of religion degrees. This is why we started the careers Facebook page, so we'd have specific jobs for Hethrop students.
Now I'm glad you've mentioned that. You say, of course, that you'll ensure the page continues to provide regular updates.
Yes.
We've had a quick look through it today before this interview, and come out with a few interesting results. One of the links posted today, for example, is for a Marine Community Support Officer. That's a position for a science graduate. It's based in Scotland. There's another job which is, I think, a lock assistant. I think that was based in London, I can't remember exactly. And something about the Peatland Preservation Society. Again, these are often science-based jobs. And there was an architectural assistant based in Hong Kong. Again, are these, would you say these are specific jobs that would be targeted for Hethrop students?
Yes, when we were setting up the job feeds, I met with Hilary Moore and her contact Rosalind, who updates the job feeds from the University of London headquarters, and we decided which industries would be best, which sectors, and we thought non-government organisations were a good one to select for Hethrop students because they do get involved with charities. However, that sometimes comes up with interesting results, so I do apologise if there are extra jobs in there. I do think it's a little bit closer though than the generic Word document of work windows.
Not just extra jobs in there. I mean, there are quite a few completely random, arguably inapplicable jobs, which could not be of any use at all to anybody who would be graduating from this college.
Okay, I understand why that's a concern for Hethrop students who don't want spam on a Facebook page. If I had a lot more time, I think I could dedicate, more time to going through them individually and selecting. I've actually taken this on as a voluntary project for the past month. It's not part of the academic affairs job description at all. It's literally just something that I thought I would help out Hethrop College with. So I do apologise that in my voluntary moments I haven't been able to specifically decide on the jobs.
No, but you do mention it a lot in your manifesto as something that you're quite proud of.
Yes, I am quite proud of it.
And you mentioned it as something that you wish to continue. You don't mention any improvements to it. You say you wish to, well, not the Facebook page specifically, you say you will continue to provide regular updates. I would ask what use those updates are, if they continue to be off the wall.
Yeah, I do appreciate the feedback, and that would be something that I would definitely change if elected.
Right.
There are also a lot of events up there, so there's a Facebook event for every career event at Hethrop College. Also links to events at the Careers University of London Centre. I think they are important things to happen, and what's also on the Facebook page are interviews with professionals, with Hilary Moore, about skills that Hethrop students have that are specific to those sectors of work.
Yeah,
I think that's a good thing to keep.
Again, we were looking through the Facebook page. There doesn't seem to be a great deal of interaction with the student body. Would you say that you've actually largely failed to engage with the student body, whether through the Facebook page or through emails? It only has 92 likes. Nobody seems to comment on any of the links, any of the videos. Nobody seems to like any of the links or any of the videos. Do you have any figures as to exactly how many people use this service?
Well, it's still in the early stages, so we've only had a month to trial the Facebook page. I would say that it has done more good than harm, though. We are trying. It's obviously going to be a rocky start-up period for any initiative at Hethrop. I think 92 likes is pretty impressive for a Facebook page at Hethrop. I wouldn't say that I'm not proud of the Facebook page, but there's definitely some improvements to be made. And if I had more time, if I didn't have a full-time degree and academic responsibilities, I think I could dedicate a lot more time to monitoring this Facebook page and making sure it fulfills its potential.
Okay,
to be
but if you haven't felt able to have the time to make these improvements already, do you think you'll be able to deal with the workload of President?
Definitely. I've been doing a lot of work this year as academic affairs officer. I've had a part-time job. I've gone to nearly every single lecture in my course. I've helped direct a play. I've also worked as residential assistant, so I'm very good with my time management skills. However, I did prioritise the academic responsibilities this year, particularly in the last month, because I've been asked to do...
You perhaps bit off a little more than you could chew this year, maybe?
I wouldn't say that, no. However, it means that I have to prioritise my time to work on my main responsibilities, and the only time that I can work on voluntary projects such as improving the career service can only be fitted into the couple of hours I have a week to spare.
Do you have any idea how many people have had jobs from this service?
No, but I know that the Heathrop Career Service does a survey every year at the end of the year and offers every student to take part to find out what they can improve on and what they can do. And I'd be interested to see how the NSS scores come back in regards to that.
Fair enough. On a slightly different subject then, one of the few concrete pledges you make in your manifesto concerns the internship scheme.
Yes.
You mentioned you were inspired by the work of the incumbent Vice President. Is it not true though that the incumbent Vice President has actually done all of the work on this scheme to the extent that it is pretty much guaranteed to launch at the start of the next academic year?
Yes, I'm promising to build on that and to continue the scheme, make sure it's successful in its implementation, and also to add more internships. I don't think you can ever have too many opportunities for Heathrop students. I've already proven my networking abilities this year with the Career Service getting guest speakers in, and I've already been in contact with the director of an internship company to organise an inspirational speakers day called What to Do If You Don't Know What to Do. And I'd like to use that contact, and we've spoken about potentially getting more internships for Heathrop students. So I've recognised the great work of Samuel English this year, and I think that I can continue this, expand on it, and make sure it's implemented in the correct way.
But you don't go into a great many specifics on that point. In fact, I would say it could be argued that it's a little bit misleading. To include in your manifesto, you only really make mention of the internship scheme. You say, I think you will continue to add, as you've pretty much just said, you will continue to expand the network.
Yes.
Is it not, though, a little bit misleading to say, to word it in such a way that almost implies you're taking credit for the scheme in general?
Not at all. That's why I mentioned my colleague in there. I said it's an initiative everyone knows.
Well, you say you were inspired by him. You didn't say he did the work.
Well, I apologise if anyone misread that. It was meant to say that I think this is a great initiative to keep going. I think it can also be expanded on by working on a Heathrop alumni service that I've been meeting with Gemma Simmons to help establish potentially this year, potentially next year. It's just sort of a dream at the moment, but she was very involved with the Cambridge alumni system, and I think that we can learn a lot from her experiences, and that can feed into the internship programme.
Fair enough. There's a similar point regarding the smoking shelter.
Yes.
You will be aware, though, of course, that it was already passed at an OGM. The proposal is going to a review stage. Are you adding anything new to this proposal? Yes,
I'm adding yet another person fighting for this cause. I spoke to Dermot Kennedy about the smoking shelter, and the reluctance to get a new one is the finance of it. However, as an elected president, I'm your voice, I'm your mouthpiece, so I'm the person that will go to meetings to write reports to push this forward and to make sure it's seen through.
What is it that you'll be contributing to the review stage, which the proposal is already through to that stage? What will you be contributing to that?
Yet another voice telling the college why it's important. I've come at it from a different angle. I've been a student ambassador for over a year now, and when I'm showing potential students around the college, the smoking shelter is one place that I avoid. So I would add yet another argument that hasn't yet been considered, I believe, by college, which is it just doesn't look good to potential students, as well as not being a great place for me to tell when I'm on duty.
Do you think the college doesn't take into account what will look good to potential students?
I think it does, but I think the point can be made again, and I think I can make it very well.
Better than people who have come before you?
I think that any added arguments made to college by different people will help. So if yet another sabbatical officer is continuing to tell college is an important thing to do, I think that can only help ensure its success.
Well, we'll wait and see with that one, I think. There's a notable, I think, absence of facts and figures and detail in your manifesto. For example, you promise, and I'll quote you directly, you say you'll establish clear goals with the HSU exec and communicate those goals to students at the beginning of the academic year.
Yes.
Your manifesto doesn't contain any such thing, I don't think. You don't commit to anything specific, you don't give us a timeline. Your opponent, for example, Heather Doon, says that she will ensure that the University Guarantor Scheme is implemented within her first 100 days in office. And I think even Peter O'Neill promised to have delivered on some of his pledges by specific dates. You don't give us any specific dates. Can you give us any now for any of your grand ideas?
The grand ideas that I have would be have to be exercised with college, so I can't actually tell you how college will react to the things I'm proposing. The guarantor system, actually, I spoke to Samuel English about this, could possibly already be in place by June. I think that's worth mentioning because as an international student, I'll definitely be the guarantor. So I asked him, and he says that he's really hopeful that it will already be in place by June. In terms of a timeline for, that Pacific Manifesto point actually firstly was something that I picked up in the presidential job description, which is you were supposed to make the union engage as a team and set goals together. That's what I think has been missing this year. I would like to, at the beginning of my term, sit with the entire executive and decide what's important to us.
Yeah, no, I think we've got that from the manifesto, and that's quite clear. But what isn't clear is, again, a timeline. I'll have to push you on that point. Can you give us any dates at all for anything that you wish to bring in the next academic year? Can you guarantee us, for example, as your opponent does, you will have accomplished something by a certain date, whether it's your first 100 days, whether it's by a month? Can you give us anything like that?
A lot of things in my manifesto are actually yearly projects, so they're things that I'm promising to do throughout the year.
But they will still have specific dates for accomplishment.
Of course. One particular thing I've spoken about in the events section, supporting the events officers for Freshers Week, I want to have that organised, hopefully by August. I don't think it's okay that a lot of the events that I've been helping with Freshers Week this year, we were going in blind a little bit because some things were left unorganised. That's not okay. Establishing clear goals. I want to have a day with the executive to spend the entire day figuring out what's important to them and having a plan to give to Heathrop students within the first week.
So following that meeting, you will be able to give clear dates as to when you will achieve certain goals?
Yes.
When will that meeting take place?
Within the first week of office, I would hope.
Can you give us a date at which we will receive the dates?
I probably couldn't at this moment, no, I do apologise.
Fair enough.
If I had a manifesto in front of me, if I can make this point, I probably could find specific things and tell you when I believe I could have them achieved by, but at the top of my head...
You wrote your manifesto, you should probably... Do you not remember the points?
I remember the main points of my manifesto, but I think it would help if I had a reminder, so if you could perhaps ask me about a specific point of my manifesto, I could tell you about a time frame.
I have my questions, I'm afraid. You will appreciate, though, of course, that it will be difficult to establish a measure of your success or failure in the absence of any of these specific details.
I don't believe that at all. I think you'll be able to see some of these manifestos straight away. Communication is a big one. I think communication has been poor with the student body this year. I'd like to see that improved. That will improve within the first week of office. The way in which I operate my union, spring cleaning the union office.
Now, there are two interesting points there, communicating with the students and spring cleaning.
Yeah.
I understand your campaign posters found their way upstairs.
Yes, unfortunately I did make a mistake, I do apologise.
Yes.
I was putting my manifestos...
And it's correct that you received a official warning for breach of campaign procedure?
I put my manifestos on the tables, because I checked with Dermot that was okay, and as a lack of judgment, Lillian encouraged me, said it was okay, and I probably should have double checked with Sam before putting it up where you get your cutlery before you go to the dining hall. As soon as I found out it was wrong, I was so regretful for this, and I took them down straight away.
It does raise potential questions, of course, were you to come to the office of president, whether or not you might make similar mistakes based on the advice of people whose opinion actually may not be worth so much trust. Do you think that's a fair concern?
I can see where you would have that concern. I don't think that having my posters up for a couple of hours, or only two,
the point isn't the amount of time they were there, the point is that it was a breach of procedure in the first place to have them there.
I think that my manifesto shows that I've achieved a lot this year on the HSU, and I didn't achieve those things by not paying attention to policy. So
this
my track
was a
record,
momentary blip.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to explain. Elections are a very stressful time, and I do apologise for that momentary blip.
And the irrelevant jobs on the Facebook page are momentary blips.
Well, I mean, if someone were to sit down and tell me what they want from the Facebook page, I would really appreciate that. Perhaps afterwards you can let me know what I can improve about it. That was an issue that
presumably, I mean, the jobs that would be of interest to students of this college might not involve nuclear astrophysics.
Oh, definitely. I think it's an IT thing that we might have to get around, because the way that you decide what jobs go on the Facebook page is by just choosing sectors.
Right.
Perhaps I probably shouldn't have selected NGOs. That was Hillary and I's mistake in deciding that that was the sector that we wanted to put on the Facebook page. There might be a couple that we could remove and cut it down.
One final question. Again, relating, I suppose, to the posters and the leaflets. You've been quite vocal in your past in your support of the centre-right Liberal National Party in Australia. You've had articles posted in The Line on the subject. You have, I think, posted leaflets in the Common Room as well, affiliated to the same party. Peter O'Neill was criticised to an extent for airing his political views whilst in the office of president. Can you give us an assurance that you will not make the same mistake, that you will not confuse the office of president with your political campaigning in the capacity of a private citizen?
The pictures were pictures of politicians and a leaflet that was for Australia Day, so I apologise if I offended anyone by those pictures. I'm not running a political campaign. No presidential candidate has ever run a political campaign. That's just not how Heythrop is. I understand that students want to know that whoever is elected is going to fight for their rights and their welfare, no matter who they are. And I'm promising that I will be that candidate. I will be someone who will help be the candidate for all students.
Yes, and is it true you were one of only 2 union members who voted against the motion of no confidence in Peter O'Neill?
That meeting was in confidence, and I don't think that you have a right to know how particular members voted in that.
I suppose we'll see and wait till the minutes are published. Thank you very much for joining us.
No worries, thank you, Ben.